There are people in your life right now you cannot trust. Not because they announce it, not because they shout or bruise you loudly. The real danger hides behind charm, behind smiles, behind subtle manipulation. Carl Jung understood this better than most. He didn't just study the conscious mind, he studied the shadows people bury. And he made one thing clear: the most dangerous people aren't the loud abusers. They're the quiet distortions, the ones who blend in, who pretend to care while dismantling you from the inside. They don't always shout, they don't always strike. Sometimes they smile. And that's exactly why you miss the signs. Jung dedicated his life to studying not just the persona, the mask people wear, but the shadow behind it. Because people rarely show you who they are. They show you what works. And if you're not aware, you'll hand over your trust, your energy, even your love, to someone who was never safe to begin with. Jung warned us of 6 patterns, 6 masks that seem harmless at first, but will quietly destroy you if you're not awake. Let's begin. 1. The chronic victim. This is the person who never takes responsibility. Everything bad in their life is always someone else's fault. They're always suffering, always wronged, always attacked. At first, you feel sympathy. You help, you support, you invest. But Jung saw the truth. People who live in permanent victimhood are often hiding manipulation, because if you're always the victim, you never have to change. You never have to face your own shadow. Instead, you weaponize pain. The chronic victim guilt trips you. They twist reality. They drain your compassion and turn it into obligation. And the cruelest part, they don't actually want healing. They want control. Jung said, when someone fuses with this identity, they're no longer seeking growth, they're thriving on your pity, and if you don't step back, you'll start to feel guilty for not being broken yourself. 2. The charming mirror. Jung called this the persona trap. These people don't show you who they are. They reflect back what you want to see. They admire your dreams, laugh at your jokes, validate your insecurities. At first, they feel like your biggest supporter, but eventually you realize you don't know them at all, because there's nothing there, no core, just a mask, just performance. They're not loyal to you, only to your approval. The moment you stop feeding their reflection, they disappear. Or worse, they turn on you. You didn't meet them. You met your own reflection in their performance. Trusting them is like trying to hold smoke in your hands. 3. The passive-aggressive enabler. This one is subtle. They never fight you openly. They let you speak, then they quietly plant seeds of doubt. You share your dream, and they say things like, "That's ambitious. I just don't want you disappointed." Or, "You're so brave for trying that. I'd never risk failing like that." It sounds supportive, but it isn't. Jung described this as the shadow side of the helper. These people don't attack your choices directly. They erode your confidence slowly, drip by drip. Doubt disguised as concern, fear disguised as logic, judgment disguised as wisdom. And if you're not awake, you'll start mistaking their limits for your own. This type is dangerous because they need you to stay small. If you succeed, you outgrow them and they lose relevance. So they clip your wings in the name of support, and you never leave the ground. 4. The secret competitor. This person isn't competing with the world. They're competing with you, but not openly. They applaud your success. They act like they're happy for you. But every time something good happens for you, they find a way to make it about them. They minimize it. They redirect the tension. they tell their own story, slightly better, slightly more impressive. Jung believed that this type is driven by unconscious inferior. They don't hate you. There isn't what you reflect back at them, their own inadequacy. And instead of owning that feeling and growing from it, they compete secretly. They copy your ideas and pretend they were theirs. They offer backhanded compliments. They only celebrate you when they're ahead, never one you're above. You feel it in the tension, in the forced praise, in these subtle shifts. And if you ignore it, you'll keep pouring trust into someone who sees you as a threat, not a friend. And here's the twist. When you fail, they'll feel relief, but they won't say it. They'll just say, "I was afraid this might happen. I tried to warn you." This person is not a teammate. They are a mirror competitor who plays the role of support just to stay close in, out to sabotage you emotionally, Jung warned. Never trust someone who can clap when it's not their turn towing. 4 out of 6 revealed. Each one more subtle than the last. Each one more dangerous the longer they get detected. Now we'll expose the finaltua, the manipulative wise one and the seductive empath who hides control under compassion. Plus, how Carl Jung believed these types form through early trauma and unintegrated shadow. And Jung believed these two were the hardest to spot because they often appear wise, helpful, or even healing. They don't control you through force. They control you through your need for love, growth, or clarity. Let's continue. 5. The spiritual artist, the vision. This is the person who presents themselves as enlightened, mature, grounded, emotionally advanced. They speak softly. They quote philosophy. They reference healing, alignment, shadow work, and mindfulness. They present themselves as above conflict, above ego. But in truth, they're deeply attached to being seen as superior. Jung would call this a split psyche, where the conscious mind clings to spiritual identity, while the unconscious shadow lakes out as quiet superiority, control, for danger. They don't dominate you by oging. They dominate you by always being the calm one, making you feel emotional, unhealed, or spiritually infer any time you push back. They say things like, "Sounds like a trigger you haven't dealt with yet. I'm just holding space. It's not my responsibility to fix your projection. You're still reacting. You have inner work to do." It sounds wise, but it's really a power play. They use emotional language to invalidate your reality. You can't win an argument, because they'll never admit to one. You can't confront them because they'll reframe your anger as a flaw in you. And the more conscious you try to become, the more they shift Thefram to stay above you, silently, spiritually, untouchable. Jung warned about this, especially bees. The wise one often builds their persona out of unintegrated ego. They didn't kill their ego. They just gave it robes and crystals. They buried it under concepts and called it transcendence. And the more you trust them to Guidoa, the more power they gain. Not by helping you grow, but by keeping you small, confused, and always needing their clarity. They don't want equals. They want students. They don't want feeling. They want authority. And if we're not careful, you'll mistake their emotional stillness for depth, when in fact, it's just performance. 6. The empath, who always ends up in control. Jung wrote often about projection, how people assign their own needs, wounds, and intentions. And the 6th type is a master of this, the empathic controller. They feel everything. They sense energy. They pick up on moods, body language, tension, subtext. They cry easily. They comfort you often. They make you feel depleasing. At first, this seems like a gift. It feels like a connection, but over time, it becomes something else. Control through sensitivity. You start adjusting your behavior so you don't disturb them. Your reactions so you don't thought them. You hesitate to express frustration because they'll say, that energy really affects me, and before you realize it, you're not express-injurious at all. You're managing them back because they've convinced you their pan is your fault. Jung warned about this subtle danger that many people who claim to be highly sensitive are actually projecting gun-held chaos outward and demanding throughworld organize itself around their wounds. This is where the empath become as toxic. They don't want connection, they want emotional safety at your expense. And if you fail to meet it, they break down and you become the bad guy. Suddenly, you're insensitive, you're cold, you're unstable. You're responsible for their spiral. But it's not your spiral, it's theirs. And they've never learned to hold it. So, they place it on you. And if you're not careful, you'll spend months, even years, trying to regulate a somione who never took responsibility. You'll mistake emotional chaos for depth. You'll mistake sensitivity for purity. You'll mistake control for faultlessness. And by the time you realize it, your identity will be wrapped around Simonos's emotional storm. That's not love. That's psychological cyberisms. And Jung's advice, walk away. Because this kind of person will never say they're dangerous. They'll say they're just feeling too much. And endless, you are deeply rooted in yourself. You will start to believe them. You'll believe their pain is your foe. Their chaos is your burden. Their breakdowns are your responsibility, but they're not. You didn't break them. You just got too close. The deeper warning. Now that you've heard all 6 types, you might ask, why do these people exist? Why Daddy move this way? And Jung's answer is brutally clear back. They never met their shadow. Sano, they make you carry it. They never faced the part of them that's manipulative, so they project it onto you. They never admitted their need for control, so they control people in the name of love, support. They never took responsibility for their pain, so they made it your job to fix. These people aren't rare. They're even rare here, and they thrive in space where people don't know how to defend harangue. Jung believed the only protection was self-awareness. To spot mask, to see through the kindness, to hear what's not being said, and walk away before you need proof. Because on Seo see it, you can't unsee it. Now, we'll go beyond the list into how you stop attracting these people, why our shadow makes you tolerate them, and how to permanently become someone they can't manipulate, use, or break. By now, you've seen them, the 6 people Carl Jung said you should never trust, not because they're always evil, but because they're deeply unaware of themselves. And when someone has no awareness of their own shadow, they make you live in it. They become the chronic victim, the calming mirror, the quiet enabler, the hidden competitor, the spiritual narcissist, the empathic controller. They don't always come to destroy you, they come to feed from you. To Jung, this wasn't moral failure. This was a psychic pattern, a survival system, oft unconscious, trying to hold itself together by externalizing pain, control, and emotion. And if you don't recognize its pattern, you'll think it's just bad luck. You'll think you keep attracting bad people. You'll think you're being punished. But Jung would say, you're being punished. You're being rude, because here's the real. Most people miss. You attract wit. You haven't integrated. Let that sink in. If you're always attracting manipulates, There's a part of you that's still afraid to stand in your own truth. If you're always surrounded by victims, there's a part of you that needs to be needed in order to fill. If you're constantly betrayed by charming people, you're still worshipping external approval more than internal clarity. That's why this video isn't just about who to avoid. It's about why you tolerated them in their first place. And Jung believed the always lives in one place, your shadow. The shadow attracts the mask. Jung taught that the shadow is everything you've repressed. The parts of you you were told were too much or too selfish or too intense or not. So you buried them. You became a menace. You became helpful. You became agreeable. You became emotionally enlightened. You became whatever would get you accepted. But here's the trade-off. You lost your edge. You lost your instincts. You lost your barrier to harm, because when you repress your anger, you tolerate respect. When you repress your intuition, you ignore red flags. When you repress your self-protection, you keep letting in the people who pretend to love you and then slowly consume you. Didn't want you to become cold. He wanted you to become whole. And to do it, you have to stop pretending that your love is limitless, that your patience is eternal, and that your trust should be freely given, because it shouldn't be. No Tavarian deserves access to you, especially not the people who live unconsciously. Because here's the brutal truth. Some people are not learning. They're just repeating. They've been Thessum for 10 years. They're not doing shadow work. They're not evolving. They're not growing with you. They're just adapting their language to hide their same old patterns. And unless you become the kind of person who values inner alignment over outer harmony, you will keep bending for people wowed and stretch an inch for you. What to Dano? If this video hit you hard, good. It means something in you is waking up. It means you're done being easy to manipulate. It means the old version of you, the one who needed to be liked, needed to fix, needed to feel good, is finally tired. So here's how you move forward. 1. Audit your circle. Start asking, who drains me? Who confuses me? Who am I constantly explaining myself to? If Somio constantly needs context just to treat you right, they're not confused. They're evil. Let them go. Jung believed withdrawal is one of the strongest acts of consciousness, not because you hate them, but because you've stopped abandoning yourself to keep Theopus. 2. Let your shadow speak. Stop trying to be perfect. Let yourself say no. Let yourself get angry. Let yourself question pure pleasantons. Your shadow isn't evil. It's protective. It's the part of you that remembers who you are when you're being emotionally gaslit into forgetting. The thought part rise. Jung said, one does not become by imagining figures of flight, but by making the darkness. If you want peace, stop performing for it. Integrate the part of you that can walk away, that can set a boundary, that can say, I'm not available for this anymore. 3. Stop explaining. The people who deserve your energy won't need you to justify your boundaries. They'll feel them, they'll respect them, and they'll match you with their own clarity. But the toxic ones, they'll they'll guilt trip you, they'll paint you as the problem. Team Jung didn't believe in convincing anxious people to see your light. He believed in becoming so grounded in yourself that their confusion no longer slows you down. 4. Trust what you felt. The first time. Most people aren't confused, they're just hoping they're wrong. But you weren't. That moment you felt the energy shift. That moment you hesitate for trusting. That moment your gut said, something's off here. That wasn't paranoia. That was your subconscious creating patterns before your mind caught up. Start listening to it. Because Paul Jung warned us about don't show up with warning signs. They show up with flattery. They show up with emotional stories. They show up with alignment and vulnerability and healing talk. But time always tells, and when it does, you better be far enough away that it no longer costs you anything. The final word. Carl Jung didn't want you to further world. He wanted you to stop fearing your own knowing. The more shadow you integrate, the fewer toxic people get close. Not because you're hiding, but because your energy no longer gives them entry. You stop explaining, you stop ficting, you stop justifying your standards, and without ever raising your voice, you become someone no manipulator can reach, no narcissist can fool, no competitor can rattle. Because you are now the person Jung wanted you to be, awake, whole, and impossible to trick. Asterisk, thank you.